Hello, I'm Rob Hughes with YouthUniverse. Today we are with the students and faculty from Oglethorpe University, the Rich Foundation Urban Leadership Program. We have with us Dr. Kendra Momon, student Christopher Huff, and Grace Moore. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Dr. King, appreciate you coming out and sharing with us the work that you're doing, the exciting work that you're doing in our community, in our schools, with Oglethorpe University. If you can give us a little background on a little bit of your journey, how did you arrive to the Atlanta area, working in the way of the Rich Foundation Urban Leadership Program?
Sure, Rob. Thanks so much for having us. My journey really started several years ago as a graduate student at Ohio State University. I happened to come across the readings of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., in particular his last book, Where Do We Go From Here? And the book changed my life. It really began to illuminate who Dr. King was to me outside of the I Have a Dream speech. And through the guidance of a great faculty mentor, I found myself being hired at the University of Georgia. I was a faculty member at UGA for 4 years. I worked in the politics department, but also in the African American Studies division. But leadership has always been my passion. It's always been my drive. It's always been the thing that I have found myself drawn to and others pulling me towards. And in 2003, there was a job opening at Oglethorpe University, a small liberal arts school in Atlanta. Sure. Having graduated from a liberal arts Colby College, it seemed like a natural fit for me. And long story short, I've been on faculty at Oglethorpe now for 9 years. In 2007, I earned tenure and also had the opportunity to become the director of the program. And what I've tried to do as director of the program is to really incorporate one of the quotes of Dr. King, which is, intelligence is not enough. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. And so I've been blessed. I'm very wealthy when it comes to the lives I've been able to impact through the leadership program and through my work in political science and hip-hop and mega churches, what have you. And so my journey really is coming full circle now because I'm able to live what it is that I'm wired to. I think God has put something in me that even if I tried to deny it, I'd find myself being drawn back to helping people, inspiring people, challenging people to do better, and really ultimately saying, let's pay it forward and let's give back, because I believe that's what we're called to do, both in academia but also in the world.
Well, that's good news. Well, I appreciate, one, again, you joining us today, but then also you brought some of the fruit of your labor with you. And I know that they're here with us, and I would love for you to just, one, Chris, if you can share a little bit about your story and a little bit of why you chose to go to Oglethorpe. And what have you been learning through your process?
Well, I'm originally from the south side of Chicago. I grew up there. After encountering gang violence and turmoil on the south side, I was able to overcome those obstacles and find my way to Oglethorpe University. I ultimately managed to make it to Marietta High School. And once I got there, I kind of saw King's dream coming alive, which kind of inspired me to want to go the route of civil rights and go and take the path of economic empowerment. As I matriculated through Oglethorpe, I began to learn that I needed not only to have book knowledge, but I needed to have practical experience to match with my education that I was learning in the classroom. And that's where I've found my way to Washington, D.C., where I was able to intern on Capitol Hill and learn the inner workings of the federal and state government systems in many ways. And
so you worked on Capitol Hill in
yes,
D.C.?
I had the blessing to work with an organization called the Congressional Award Program.
Congressional Award Program?
The Congressional Award. Yes, it's a program that awards youth with medals of honor for doing work in the community, for setting goals and achieving goals. Started my own organization. I got a partnership between South Atlanta and Oglethorpe University, South Atlanta High School and Oglethorpe University, to start a program called Operation Uplift. There I was able to pair students at the 9th grade level with mentors and with economic resources to help them achieve their goals, something I learned from the Congressional War. And once I was able to do that, I had a wealth of knowledge in terms of working with kids and dealing with the real issues that students face on a day-to-day basis. All of this, I think, God has made this pathway for me to allow me the opportunity and develop the skills necessary to be successful in the environment that I'm in now. You
mentioned, where do we go from here, which we want to define what that here moment is. I know at that time it was 1967, 1968, and you've continued your work where we continue to wrestle with that question of where do we go from here, and what does here look like. And so we're pleased to have Grace with us as well. Grace, if you could share a little bit more about, I know you mentioned you are at Oglethorpe, and this is your freshman year.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. I just was blessed initially in high school, just having the opportunity to serve in different leadership positions, just combining my passion and love for people and serving. And so when it came time to apply for colleges, I had made my mind set, was off to go somewhere, and like we find out, God's plan is often not corresponding with our plan, and so it came down to 3 schools, one of which being Oglethorpe University. And so I decided to attend in the fall of last semester, took the leap of faith, moved to Atlanta from Memphis.
From Memphis?
Absolutely,
okay.
Yep. And just have been blessed with opportunities just to serve through the Rich Foundation Urban Leadership Program, as well as just being instructed by great mentors and professors like Dr. Momon.
For both Chris and Grace, I think what's amazing, and Chris, I was laughing on the inside when he was sharing some of his story, because I remember when I first met Chris as a freshman. I met him through an email. He's always been ambitious, but he's always followed his word. And the thing about it was that when he did the Congressional Award, he was a sophomore. And I remember saying, Chris, I'm a little concerned because you're a sophomore going to Washington, D.C., and there's an 80-page paper attached to this thing. And I was like, are you sure you can do this? And he's like, oh, yeah, I can do it, I can do it. And I'll never forget in April when he emailed Dr. King this 80-page paper. and we had a tough, because we can't share the good without sharing the bad. We had a tough go at it for a while because we had to work through the 80-page paper. We had to work through Chris honoring his word, keeping his commitment. We had to work through some disappointment, but we also had to work through beginning again. Because there were two young men that went to D.C., and I can say Chris and I have stayed the course in the sense of, I believe our faith has connected us. Because one of the things that happens when you're dealing with people in a small environment is that offense can occur, and it will occur on both sides. And one of the things I try to tell my students all the time is that you may not agree with the methodology, but follow the pattern of my heart. And in following the pattern of my heart, what I simply mean is that from day one I care about my students, even when I try not to. God puts special people in my classrooms, and I try to work with them. And so when I look at Chris and when I look at Grace, I'm really blessed to be around 2 students who are very ambitious, 2 students who are very clear on what it is they believe they're called to do, and 2 students who have been great examples of what the Rich Foundation Urban Leadership Program produces. Chris, more active and interconnected in the Atlanta community, Grace more active on campus, and really our brainchild of this homelessness initiative, both doing great work. And so for me, when I look at the Rich Foundation Urban Leadership Program, I look at it in terms of legacy. Our whole thing is to teach students to create a life, create a living, but to make a difference. We always say make. Our motto at Oglethorpe is make a life, make a living, make a difference. But I'm around students who create the life they want.
That's exactly right. And one, I would like to again commend you for the role that you play as the director of the program, but even more than the director, your heart, your mind, your spirit, like you said, even when you may not want to, something within your spirit connects with the students, and you embrace that role, and clearly that role is shared and welcomed by the students. Just hearing the fantastic work that you're doing, the ambition of being able to, the relationship between you and Chris, the fact that you felt comfortable enough to reach out to her, and that you modeled what does it mean to go on a journey together. And I think that in our community, those are things that we need to see more of and experience, the actual demonstration of people walking with each other. And it's interesting that when you talk about the collective work of Dr. King and others who were part of the civil rights movement, we use words so loosely, such as actions and demonstrations. But when people were marching and walking, those were demonstrations and actions and acts of love. And as you talk about, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Being able to walk side by side with other young people and being able to demonstrate the love, being able to demonstrate the skills that are needed to really make an impact. You're just getting to campus, and now all of a sudden you're putting together campus-wide events and activities. Hope One, is it Help One, Hope One?
Grace, you can elaborate better,
Okay.
I think.
Well, through the Homeless Drive is kind of the umbrella name that we've just kind of created, and through that we have different teams. We have a clothing drive team that's collected numerous, infinite amounts of clothing, it seems, as we continue to wash those to distribute to a local mission. And then there's also the kit team, who is, like Dr. Momon mentioned, assembling kits that'll just aid in basic needs, and then collecting the dollar through the dollar campaign. Just using the resources on campus through students and just really promoting generosity, and just going back to the verse that the world of the generous gets larger and larger, and just really trying to correlate that. How can we as students be generous? You know, students are labeled the poor college kids, but how much can a dollar travel?
How would you define the issue of homelessness, and why is that such an issue for youth and young adults to be concerned about?
One of the things that we've agreed collectively in the class is that part of the issue of homelessness is an issue of helplessness and hopelessness, people giving up from both within and without. And so what we've really tried to do is move away from the formal definitions of the term and really engage ourselves through critical assessment of why is it that we turn a blind eye to the issue, and more importantly to the persons. When we looked at the biblical perspective, we looked at the scripture, and the poor will be with you always. And what we concluded is that what that means in effect, it's not the strict interpretation, but part of it is that every time we have the opportunity to give, whether it's financially, whether it's through love, whether it's through care, then we should do that, because we are the hands and feet of the one we serve. And be clear, everyone that's in the program, everyone that's in the class is not a Christian. Grace and Chris and myself happen to be Christian, but we try to create the conversation so it is interfaith, so that everyone can be included, because everyone can pay it forward, everyone can give.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing, and we look forward to contributing and being a part of the work that you're doing with the Rich Foundation Urban Leadership Program. I look forward to remaining in contact with all of you, and look forward to having you return back to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.